Banco Compartamos was founded in 1990 as a non-governmental microcredit organization that ran exclusively on grants. In 2000, it became a for-profit corporation. 2 years later, it issued debt on Mexico's bond market. In 2006, it became a fully licensed bank. The following year, it held an initial public offering. Today, Banco Compartamos is a publicly traded company valued at $2.5 billion that serves over 2.7 million borrowers. At its IPO, it was the most profitable bank in Latin America. This transformation has not been without controversy. Indeed, Banco Compartamos forced a conversation around the world about whether trust built on top of pre-existing social structures can coexist with generous profits. Compartamos operates unabashedly at the commercial end of the spectrum of approaches to microcredit. It generates huge returns for its private investors. At the same time, Compartamos has reached millions of poor Mexicans and has grown much faster than its non-profit counterparts, such as Grameen Bank in Bangladesh. Therein lies the bone of contention. The name Compartamos means "let's share" in Spanish. Its many critics have raised a fair question. Exactly how much sharing is Compartamos doing? Michael Chu worked closely with Carlos Daniel and Carlos Labat, the two founders of Compartamos, the two Charlies, as they're known in the industry, in 1998, as they sought to transition to for-profit status. He is unapologetic about the bank's commercial success. It was, he explains, all part of their plan from the very beginning. Chu has played a significant role in the evolution of microfinance from a fringe idea to its current incarnation as an enormous global industry. His journey began as the former CEO of Accion International in the early 1990s, where he helped start self-sustaining, commercially viable microfinance banks across Latin America, from Peru to Bolivia. Chu explained that Accion had begun as a kind of Peace Corps, before there was a Peace Corps. It brought young people to work in the poorest parts of Latin America in the 1960s, building roads and clinics and community centers. But after a decade of this, in 1973, Accion began issuing microloans in Recife, Brazil, and soon was fully dedicated to microfinance. From the outset, Chu's objective was to make microfinance a profitable concern, to build an industry where none actually existed. The whole theory of change was to show that banking to the unbanked, financial inclusion, could be even better than banking the already banked as a business, he says, because then people would change their behavior and come into this industry. Michael Chu describes how Accion ended up in microfinance. Accion's people were getting a bit frustrated that they would go build another community center or help a community build another water pipe, and then nothing else happened. But they noticed that every third door in these very poor areas was a business, whether it was a mom-and-pop store or a carpentry shop. Chu explains that these businesses had two options for financing, either the local moneylender, which is just anyone who has excess cash, or the last link of the distribution chain, the fellow who brings 6 one-liter bottles of cooking oil to the lady running the mom-and-pop shop, and she says, "Gee, I don't have enough to pay you today." And he says, "No problem, next time I come around, you pay me." This pattern isn't so different from how struggling families in America financed their household consumption in the not-too-distant past. For example, in one movie called The Prize Winner of Defiance, Ohio, based on the true story of Evelyn Ryan, a mother in the 1950s supported her 10 children and underachieving husband by winning advertising jingle writing contests for various brands. Before she started winning, though, when the milkman came by every day, Ryan had no money to pay. "No problem," he'd say. "I'll take your payment tomorrow." Essentially, he was extending her a loan. Chu's point is that plenty of people around the world are still financed in this way, but those means of accessing credit through opportunistic moneylenders or suppliers' credit tend to be exorbitantly expensive. The poor were already paying the highest interest rates by far in the economic system, he says. Based on these insights, Accion's mission evolved to extending access to lower-cost finance in Latin America, and Chu went on to help MFIs in Accion's network transition from NGOs to licensed for-profit banks, such as Banco Sol in Bolivia and Mi Banco in Peru. But Compartamos was the first MFI to go public.